As you can see here, we have our autopilot ready, and we'll put it on the drone frame and we'll start doing the wiring. And these are our motor pins, which are all running on either D-Shot or PWM. You'll be able to control the motors through that. So I'll plug in the motor 1 to the PWM pin 1 and so the black wire goes on the top and the signal wire goes on the bottom. So as you can see here in the autopilot, you can see the top is negative, the middle pin is positive, and the signal pin. So you need to plug in the same orientation. This is the third pin and this is M4 pin. The motor setup are quite easier here, like we'll show you once we are setting up with the Q ground control. You'll be able to see how easy it is to set up the motors. So once this is ready, I would also plug in the power module here so that we'll get power from the battery. And also I wanted to tell you that the third motor here, the propeller is stuck, so we are not able to take it out. So I have just unplugged the cable from the power distribution board inside, and also the power distribution board inside is the Agam Robotics PDB. So once this is connected, we'll just plug into the Q ground control and set up the system from there. So before doing that, let's also try to connect rest of the system here. So we are using the CE controller, so I'll just connect the RC pin of that into the RC in here, and the same thing goes here. There's a black wire which goes on the top and the signal on the bottom. And then we have the telemetry pin here, so which we'll be taking from this side, and by default we are connecting it to the telemetry 1, so I'll plug that in as well. And we also have a SICK radio here for sending the telemetry data wirelessly. So that I'll plug it on the telemetry 3 port so that we'll be able to get the wireless data, telemetry data from the system. And once this is done, we also have a flow sensor, which also will look into that in the later part of the video, how to set it up. Let's not connect the flow sensor and the GPS as of now. So we'll do the basic setup for now and then get to the next part of our product portfolio. Now I'll plug in the autopilot to the laptop and it should be able to boot up and it should detect. Alright, so now that we are here, so we are able to see all these things for now. And let's do the radio and actuators and let's finish this setup. So now I'll plug in the battery to the drone, and I also have my controller here. I'm plugging the controller, and this and the video transmission system over here are already connected, so we'll be able to get it up and running without any issues. So once we go to the radio tab, so we should be able to see the channel mapping once it goes green with the controller. So as you can see here, it already shows the channel monitor. So I'm able to move the sticks and it is already reflecting in the system. But note here that the radio configuration, like if you see, the channels are not mapped. So we need to do the calibration from the radio to the autopilot side. So let's click calibrate. And you need to keep all the switches away from the controller, so just make sure everything is away, and I'm not sure, usually I keep the throttle down here and click next. So it shows here lower the throttle stick all the way down, and then it asks me to push the throttle top and then again bottom. So the throttle is already detected, as you can see here. And then I do the yaw, and yaw is showing up as well. And then it says to do the roll. Roll is also mapped. And then the pitch is also mapped. Move all the transmitter switches. So I have set these two as the setup. So I'll show you when we do the flight modes. So these are all good. Click next. All the settings are captured. Good. We are done. So now you can actually notice all these are moving. So now how do we do the flight modes? Typically I like to keep it in such a way that the arm switch is on my left. This is how I used to do the FPV drones, so I try to keep it the same way. So this is channel 5. So I'll set the arm switch on channel 5. As you can see here, it says arming denied, so it has detected the arming. And then on the right side is where my channel mapping is, which is channel 8. So I'll set the channel 8 for the mode. And then the first mode, I kind of like it to keep with the stabilized mode. And then as you can see here, it highlights which mode it is right now. So flight mode 1, flight mode 4, and flight mode 6. These are the things which are mapped to this specific switch. So if you use anything like a potentiometer or some other sliders or something, you'll be able to get like multiple modes from there. So right now we typically use like 3 modes. So I'll use flight mode 1 for stabilized mode, and then flight mode 4 for altitude, and then flight mode 6 for position. So when I'm flying, like typically these two switches are down if I'm using with the flow sensor or GNSS. That's the way I like it to keep it. We'll do it that way. And you can do it based on your requirement or based on your accessibility. Like you want to have the modes here, you'll be able to still do that. You can put the switches, arm switch here, you can still do that. You'll be able to customize based on your requirement. And then I also like to set up this SB switch for the emergency kill switch, which is channel 6. And in case of emergencies, you want to it got stuck or it flipped over and the motors continue to spin and you're damaging anything surrounding the drone or the propeller or the drone itself. You just switch it on, it kills the motors and disables everything on the system. So it's good to have it in case of emergencies. Always try to keep an emergency kill switch. Now that we are done with the flight modes, let's move on to the actuators. And here, like most of the setup, like this is what I was saying, the motor distances from the autopilot. As you can see here, the dimensions from the center of the autopilot to the motor wheelbase, basically the dimension here is what you need to set. Typically the numbers what you see here is in meters, but it's kind of arbitrary. There's no dimensions here. It's just a representation of your setup. So you can either measure it in the meters and then you can reduce it and you'll get different dimensions based on your setup. So right now we'll keep it 1 because it's a standard or generic quadcopter configuration, which is similar to what our setup is. You are able to see the motors aligned in the same way. And now that this is done, and we need to set up each motor for the pins we connected here. As you can see, the motor 1, 2, 3, 4, which is here on the drone frame is 1, over here is 2, 3 and 4. So we need to set up these specific ones in the aux channel. So first is let's set up the protocol for the ESCs. Typically I like to go with D-Shot if the ESC supports it. If it is not and it's a standard PWM based, you can leave it at PWM 400 Hz, it should work. And in this case, let's try to set it to D-Shot 300. And here it's motor 1. You can hear the beep. And let me select aux 2 to motor 2. Motor 2 also made the noise. Motor 3 may not be doing it. Yeah, it will not do it because I have unplugged it because it has the motor stuck there, as I said. So I'll connect to the motor 3 for now. It should work regardless of that. And D-Shot 300, aux4 is motor 4. Alright. So now that if you have mapped in this way, your configuration of your motors 1, 2, 3, 4 should be looking like an alpha. Like how you write the alpha, that's how it should look like. So the 1 is the front right, 2 is rear left, 3 is front left, 4 is rear right. So this is how it should be. And once you set this up, and you can also do this identification if this has gone wrong. You'll be able to do the motor identification and assignment. So based on the motor, as you can see here, let me spin the motor again. So this spins, so this is motor 1. So whatever the motor spins, you need to press that particular number. If it is reversed, you need to change your configuration on the autopilot side. So you need to switch or swap one of these pins. So right now it's switched on the 1, so I'll connect that. And then 2, again it's spinning, maybe you're not able to see it in the video. And 3 is disabled, I'll click that. And 4 is already doing it. Let me spin the motor once again. So it did. So I'll click it and we are good to go with the motor setup. So now that it's armed, like except the motor 3, we should be able to run these 3 motors simultaneously. Let me put it here. And let's run all motors slowly. So we are good with that. And now that we are done with the radio, actuators and rest of the things, we are good to proceed to the next stage. So as you can see here, and notice that on the Q ground control, it says ready to fly on stabilized mode, and you will be able to arm the drone and run the motors. So I'll just put the throttle to 0 and then arm it, and you can see the motors are spinning. As you can see, the motors are spinning in the stabilized mode. So now that the motors or the actuators has been set up, we can proceed to the next stage of talking about the product overview of other products like flow range sensor, GNSS, power modules, power distribution boards, what we are offering at Agam Robotics. We'll talk about that and then proceed to integrate with our autopilot in the next video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.